So welcome to everyone who's joining in. So you have already come to the right place. If you can hear me, then everything is working fine. You should also see my screen, and we'll start in about 5 minutes. Like usually in these online appointments, everyone is pretty exactly on time, but I appreciate that you're being here early. I'm also more or less like an early person. Like I read recently the question if for the rest of your life you can either be 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late. I would definitely be the person who's always 15 minutes early. Yeah, there's already one question which points you to the chat. So you can write things in the chat for the others to read, or also for me, or you can post something in the question and answer section. Here someone is asking about if the meeting is recorded. Yes, it is being recorded. So you get a recording of this afterwards, right after the webinar. This is like uploaded to Zoom, and then you get the link via email so you can rewatch it. That it might also be a good idea because like my personal trademark, if I can call it like that, is a more fast-paced webinar that leaves you inspired and like shows you what you can do over a very detailed webinar that goes into the very last little where do I click of things, and then just leaves half of you bored to death. So instead, I will show you a lot in these 60 minutes, I hope, especially if you're new to MAXQDA or if you're coming back to it after having not used it for a while. So it might be a good idea to watch the recording, because for these like really detailed click here things, you can also watch a video or watch the recording and see where I clicked. I will keep in mind to, as often as I can, like tell what I'm actually doing, but I want to give you an overview of the core functions of MAXQDA, and that's like you can explain everything in every time, right? So I can explain MAXQDA in 60 seconds, in 1 hour, in a week, in a semester, but still it's a lot for 60 minutes, and I'll make the best use of your time. So yeah, you can, yes, it's going to be recorded. I'll just write the answer so that no one thinks I'm unpolite. But yeah, and you can give me a quick indication, maybe just in the chat or something, um, if you can hear me well, if that works for you, if you see my screen, everything fine. Like I'm a qualitative researcher. If I get a sample of one person saying everything is fine, then I assume it's fine. Yes, perfect. Thank you. A sample of n equals 3. That's great. With at the moment 20 participants, that's a solid sample. Perfect. Okay, then we have 1 minute to go. To not waste your time, like our precious 60 minutes, maybe just a little bit about me up front, so no one is really missing that. Hi and welcome. My name is Andreas. As you can probably hear by my pretty accent, I'm a German native speaker. So I'm in Vienna at the moment, and I'm a MAXQDA trainer and a software consultant. So what I do every day is I teach MAXQDA and related methods. I also like do one-on-one consultation with people. Like just half an hour ago, I talked to someone about their dissertation, how to best prepare their results that they have created with MAXQDA, because the Defensio and everything is coming up. And I do contractual research. So I'm a person who, like, if someone puts it out there, hey, we are looking for a researcher to do this and that, then I'm the person who applies for like contractual analysis by various institutions. So I'm a person who teaches, who consults, and who also does research themselves quite a lot. So right now I'm preparing 2 extensive workshops on grounded theory, reading books all about that. So that's me. And now it's exactly 4 o'clock, so we will get started. Like the rest of the people are dropping in. Let's get started with what MAXQDA is about. And this workshop is always a little dear to me because it's an introduction to MAXQDA. And I remember when I met MAXQDA for the first time, like probably 6, 7 years ago or something like that in a university class, and I just wrote down the 6 letters, and it has like had a big impact on my life. So maybe it can also be something for you, or maybe not. You will see. So what are the goals of this workshop? Like, what do we want to achieve here? It's just 60 minutes, so let's be realistic about what we can do. I want that you get an understanding of the basic functions and workflows of MAXQDA. That said, it's not like after 60 minutes, you're an absolute expert in MAXQDA. I want that you understand what's the core logic of it, how do you use it, what would you want to use it for. So I'm a person, I love software, I love methods, and I always think of software like as a tool in my toolbox. And MAXQDA can be such a tool in your toolbox. And after this webinar, you hopefully know not maybe the details of this tool, but what is it and what is it good for. That's what we're going to take with us, and what I hope you're going to take with you. And that's my speciality in this introduction, or my special twist on it. I want that you can, bit more than just knowing what the hammer is good for, but that you can anticipate the entire research process when using MAXQDA. We could easily spend just 1 hour only on coding. We will see in a second what it is. But I want that you get the big picture. What does it mean to work with MAXQDA initially in your research project, and what does it mean to work with it in the last stages of your research project? That I want to give to you, because I think that's particularly helpful to help you in anticipating what your process will be, and if MAXQDA is the right tool for you, and how it can be best used for that case. So that's my idea, sort of simulation of a 1 document research project, I call it. Assume you have just 1 document and you do your entire research project with this 1 document. What would it look like? That's sort of the idea. Of course, it's a simulation. It tries to anticipate what these stages are. And here I distinguish 4 stages in MAXQDA. It's a bit built on the general scheme of qualitative content analysis by Udo Kuckertz, where we first think about data exploration, about getting to know our data, then about coding, with new and existing codes. We will see in a second what coding means. Then we will think about implementing document variables, implementing quantitative data in our tool, not because it's a time-sensitive step, but because it's one that's sometimes overlooked. And in my consultation, that I say, hey, have you tried using document variables? And then people are like, oh my God, really? I didn't know that this exists. Could have saved me a lot of time. So that's why I want to show you that. And then we will look at retrieving results in the end of your research, and a little bit into what the analysis side of it can look like. And in this, I will also do my best to cover all the most important elements in MAXQDA. So MAXQDA has little sub-functions, little building blocks, basically, that you can use in your research. And I want that you know the most important ones, because it's astonishing how people use MAXQDA for 5 years and then have never heard of a memo, for example. You will, after this webinar, have a good idea what a memo is. But first of all, what is MAXQDA? What are these 6 cryptic letters? What does it stand for? Actually, few people really know, I think, and I think more and more know because I keep telling it to them, just as a little that you can show to your colleagues that you're smart. If they ask you what is MAXQDA, QDA is the obvious part, I think, qualitative data analysis. And Max actually refers to the German sociologist, or sort of founder of sociology, Max Weber. So this is qualitative data analysis done in the spirit of Max Weber. If you want to impress, especially your German colleagues, you can tell them this. You can also find it somewhere online, but it's not just my idea. Someone asked, I think, Udo Kuckertz once what it means. So what is the software now? We know the 6 letters. That's a start. It's a software that assists you in the analysis of qualitative data. There are already 2 important points in there. the 2 points are, first one is MAXQDA assists you in the software, in the analysis of qualitative data. It does not do the entire analysis for you. Sometimes people come to these webinars with the expectation that they like feed their data to MAXQDA and then they get the finished result, whatever finished means. No, it's an assistant in your research. It helps you to do certain things with the options a computer cannot offer, from simple counting things, searching things, up to generating a summary with AI, which are the newest version. Yeah, someone asks if the recording and slides are being shared. Yes, you get the recording link right after the webinar has ended. So MAXQDA is not new, even if it's new to you. Some people say, oh yeah, that's the new software by Verbi, right? It's not new. It was released first in 1989. And all these softwares that achieve a similar thing, the QDA softwares, emerged in the 1990s. But at the moment, we are 1 year in the future because we are using MAXQDA24 right now. And oh no, we are no longer in the future. My joke doesn't work anymore. It's 2024, right? So we are in the present now. I used this joke last month and it doesn't work anymore. So it's 2024 now. We have arrived in the present. And we now have like newest features with AI, like OpenAI implementation, ChatGPT implementation, and so on and so on. There are particular webinars about that, but just that you see, it's a software that you will find a lot of literature on. That's a good thing. A lot of video tutorials, lots of publications using MAXQDA because it's around for essentially like longer than I am. But it's being developed, and like always new features come with it. One thing that's just good to know, especially if you like are keen on methods from the social sciences, is that originally MAXQDA was built with doing qualitative content analysis in mind. Qualitative content analysis is sort of the German version of thematic analysis, sort of. So it's a coding technique for analyzing data. And also, it doesn't say it here on the slide, it was also built with mixed methods research in mind. That means you can still use various other methods. Like right now, I'm preparing a grounding theory workshop with it. You can use like sequential analysis, discourse analysis, whatever method comes to your mind. Qualitative methods, of course. And you just have to think how to implement them. But it's good to know that this was the method that it originally was designed for. So if you have no methodological guidance yet at all, then you might want to look into qualitative content analysis or into thematic analysis, thematic coding, if that's something you're looking for. Now, long story short, what does MAXQDA do? The key functionality of MAXQDA is surprisingly simple, like at least from a technical perspective. What the key functionality of MAXQDA is that you assign so-called codes, you could also think of them as tags or labels or categories, to specific parts of usually text. That means you read your text here in interview, and then you say, hey, this section here, these 4 lines here, I see here the topic, theme, whatever, responds to the crisis. And then you say, please, I want to assign my label, my code, we will call it from now on, because that's the language that MAXQDA uses. I want to assign this code response to the crisis, which I have created, and I want to assign it to this statement, to these 4 lines here. And that's the key functionality. Why do you want to do that? First of all, it helps you to structure your file. It helps you to find and retrieve certain things. You can then say, hey, I want to see what people say about responding to the financial crisis. And I want to then maybe see what does a politician say versus a banker versus an activist, for example. And it also, as you can tell here on the numbers, it keeps count for you so that you get an idea what is frequent, what is rare, what are common topics in your project, and which one are rather niche topics. That said, it's a simple process that enables a lot of analysis options, this tagging, basically, this coding, but it also brings a lot of methodological questions with it, like where do these codes come from, what's a good name, how long should my segment be, and so on and so on. We'll not dive into this right today. We will focus on the software functionality, although I will give you a little bit hints and advices on the side. I said MAXQDA is used for qualitative data. Text is, I would say, the most common and widespread use of it. If you code text, then you can just highlight a certain segment of your text from a certain, from character 100 to character 210. You highlight something with your mouse, and then you say, I want to assign this new code. You can do the same with images, that you say, hey, I highlight this rectangular selection. It's basically the same way that you do it if you select something on your computer, on your desktop, for example. You draw up a rectangular selection, and then you say to this specific selection of the image or PDF document, I want to assign the following code. And the same holds true for audio and video files, where you select it on the audio or video track, for example, from second 10 to second 25. And this, in my opinion, is one of the big potentials of using such a software, that you're not just limited to using text, but that you can use a wide range of data and integrate it in your analysis. For example, I interviewed once people who are freelancers, asked them about the jobs, about risk, changes, challenges, whatever. And then I also imported their websites to see how do they portray themselves in the interview versus on their website, which is a visual element. I could also have a look at their marketing videos, or I don't know what they said in a podcast last week. So that's a big option, that you can use more than just one data type. So let's get started, because this is not just like a PowerPoint presentation where I show you on highly controlled slides what's happening, but it's also a software demo. So I will show you these steps live with all the things that can go wrong. However, in the introduction, usually everything works fine, but you never know if there was a recent bug introduced or whatever. But you will see it live in action, so that you also can take this video recording that you will get and just follow my steps later on if you like to just see what did I do and what could help you. So it's your custom tutorial, in a sense. We will start with what I call step 0, starting and importing data. We will really start from 0. I will start with you as if you open MAXQDA for your first time ever. Just that you're really on the first page and not start skipping the introduction. So we will start, and it will always work like this. I will briefly explain it, then we will do it, I will do it, and then we'll continue on to the next step. So we will open the software, make sure it's working, then we create a new project file, and then we import our sample data here. For this, I close my PowerPoint, and I bring up MAXQDA. You see here, my versions go back until version 2011. So I've been in this business for a while. So let's go to the newest version, of course, MAXQDA24, and call it up. It takes just a second, and I want really as if you are opening the software for the very first time. That must be an exciting moment. So let's see, it should come up just in a second. And what we will now do is that we will create a so-called project file, a file that contains all our data. It takes a little today. I don't know why. Maybe my laptop is a little bit tired already. See, that's the thing about live demos. I'll just close and open it again. and then we continue in just a second. So what we will do now is we will open a so-called, now here it is. We will create a so-called project file. This is the container file where all our data is stored. There our documents are stored, our codes, our memos, and usually you create it at the first day of your research. And in the best case, you never think about it again. In the worst case, you are like, oh my God, where is this file? I moved to a new computer. I should move it over there, because it's a file that you store somewhere on your device. It's not like in a cloud or anywhere. So here, I will switch this to English in just a second, but we'll here hit first new or neu in German, and start with a new project. For a new project, I need to pick a location where I want to save it, where I want to place it. For example, on my desktop, or here it suggests by default in the document folder somewhere. I will just place this on the desktop to the many other demo files that I create throughout the day, and I will just call this introduction webinar. The most common title I read for these things is my dissertation, or master thesis, or bachelor thesis, or if it's not your first one, it's maybe third bachelor thesis about something. But this usually one project is like one thesis or one project that you're working on. Here I save it on a desktop. Just a quick note, be careful about if you save it in a cloud synchronized folder, or on a USB drive, because everything that can mess with the connection of MAXQDA to the file can lead at some point to saving issues. For example, you work on your file and then it's being backed up in the cloud and saved in the cloud, uploaded to the cloud while you work. That can cause problems, because MAXQDA always saves your progress continuously. I just switched this to English in a second. It saves your progress continuously. So if your computer shuts down, if you pull your plug, everything's going to be there. Maybe a minute lost or something. But that also means if there's a synchronization process running in the background, it can mess with your data. Better make a backup from time to time, just to be sure. So MAXQDA is coming back up, and then we will get started right away. So now you see it's in English, just as we wanted to. And now we have these three windows that are empty. And MAXQDA starts us out on the import tab, because it assumes that, well, maybe this guy wants to import some data, because what else would he do at his first minute with MAXQDA? I just pick here text. In the top left, I pick text. You can also drag and drop it, but no, I want to take a different example data. Yeah, let's just go to that one. Let's take these 5 interviews here, for example, and import them. And then I say import, and once they're imported, text documents like stay in your, no, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, okay, it's also fine. Yeah, it shouldn't be this table format, but it's going to work for us right now. So what I want to do in MAXQDA now is, yeah, we have our documents here, and we can then work with them. Yeah, wait, just give me a second. Yeah, we can import our data this way, and yeah, let's. Okay, I waste 2 precious minutes to get you into a clean setup, because I did something wrong here with setting up the data. Just give me 1 second, because these are the example projects that I use, and I did the mistake of yeah, I don't want paragraph line numbers, so I just get one new document for us over there, so that you see what a normal project looks like. Definitely don't want to have that. So okay, we import one more file, and then you see how it's supposed to look. So here Matteo is, yeah, what annoyed me was this table view, but that wasn't a data preparation mistake I made. I should have checked it. Okay, so like this it looks. I imported our data. You see here 3 windows that are important. The top left is the so-called document browser, the list where all documents are listed. You see here that we have here the interview with Matteo, with David, with Tatiana. And if you double click on one, you can switch to this document. And in the right, you see the so-called document browser, where it's basically like a Word file. You see your currently open file here and can work on it. And in the bottom left, you see the so-called code system, where all the codes, the documents that we are, the text we are going to use to structure our document, where they are stored. We will fill them up in just a moment. So now that's our step 1. We made sure the software is working. We imported our documents, nice and clean. And we have here the documents, here the currently open document, and down here the currently available codes. Now we will come to our first real task. We have 4 steps, so I will speed it up a little bit so that we don't lose too much time on that. But 4 steps that basically mirror the essential steps of your research process. The first one here is data exploration. What we want to do in that step is that we want to familiarize ourselves with the material. We want to gather ideas for our analysis, see if the material is relevant, and we want to capture our initial thoughts and findings. And that's one important point. Try to capture your insights early, write them down. Because what often happens to me is that I meet people who work on their dissertation for like 5 years, and then they come to my consultation and they say, I don't think I have any results. Then the common problem is that they have become so familiar with their data and their insights that they have already forgotten what was new to them in the first week or first month. So keep track of your insights. And one way to do that is, for example, by using color codes and memos. In this step, we will start reading into one of the interviews, use the color codes to highlight our findings, and then I will show you segment comments and, in this case, document memos. That's actually my favorite stage of the research process because there is so much new to discover, and it's also the stage where you can like get to know a lot of the basic functions of MAXQDA without having to worry too much about all the little details, like how do I call my codes best. So first feature I want to show you is highlighting texts via these text markers, these color codes up here. So we can select something here and say, oh, well, that's an interesting statement. I just highlight it and, for example, pick yellow up here. Now you see what happened. Left to the segment, there appeared the word yellow and this coding stripe. This also gets highlighted in yellow. And here in the code system, we see now a code called yellow. We see it was used 1 time in our data and 1 time in this interview with Matteo. I haven't done anything on the other documents. If I use this color again, here, then we see here yellow goes up to 2 and Matteo also goes up to 2. My advice is to use these colors with a certain system. So think about what you want to use them for. My personal favorite color is red. So I use red whenever something is unclear to me. So I might say, I'm not sure if maybe, how long is this break here? Oh, no, sorry, that was green. Tells you more about me than about MAXQDA. Yeah, here it is. Is this break correct? Or how long is it? Or something common would be like, what does this word mean? No idea what this word means. I need to look it up. Or who is this person? Isn't this the other person I interviewed? Maybe I want to check back on something. Red is a code that always follows me throughout the entire research process because it reminds me of what I need to check back on, what I need to discuss with my supervisor, or what I need to look up. So that's color coding. You can just highlight colors. Now we have the next function comments, segment comments. So we might want to know why did we highlight this, for example. I could double click here on the coding stripe, or I could right click and say edit comment to open up this comment window. Here I can write, for example, what does this word mean? Okay. And then you see it pops up here on the side in the sidebar as a so-called segment comment. It's basically like a side note in a book. If you don't see that, if you have used MAXQDA before, it can be because this side window here is closed, just in case that you have never seen this before. It can be because the sidebar is closed. So you can use this to comment on things, to summarize a long paragraph. You could do something like this back and forth. You could summarize maybe with yellow and then say, this person is very happy with their job. Maybe that's the essence of these like 5 questions. It's in my opinion, very powerful tool because it helps you to keep track of your insights. And if you later, I just show you a quick example. If I write something here, and if I later retrieve data, for example, by double clicking here on yellow, you see here, I always have the comment next to the segment. So this can help you to quickly summarize or find segments later again. And let's assume we are done with our coding. We have gone through one document, we used some colors, we wrote some segment comments. Then it's hooray, time to celebrate. But I would strongly recommend that you then take the time to write a short so-called document memo. A memo is a short, comparatively short note on your thoughts, your insights, your findings, whatever, your questions that you have about the document. You can use it for a case summary, for describing a case in detail. In this case, I could write a memo about Matteo. I can, for example, right-click and hit here, memo. Then you see that this yellow Post-it note is coming up. And I can write something like, Matteo is very happy with his job, but he would like whatever. You can write this, you can like edit things here, you can make it bold, you can insert images, links, segments from your text, whatever. It's basically like a document in itself. Like here, I drag and dropped like a quote in here because I want to have it. You can do a lot with these memos. It's basically like its own little Word file. You could compare it like that. But it's very useful to summarize your insights in one document, to keep track of. If you see here this little line, and it indicates that, well, there are also memos for a code. So you could write a memo for a code here to keep track of what do I want to use yellow for. I use this code for. It could be a very simple description of what it is all, what you use this code for. So that are the essential steps of exploring your data. You can use color codes. Think about what you want to use these colors for. Use my big advice, use segment comments and use memos to keep track, especially of your early insights, because they will become later so familiar to you that you will not be able to recognize them at all. So let's get back into the presentation and go to the second step. And before I do that, I didn't turn on my light because, yeah, we just picked sunset here. Just a second. So that's better because else I will sit in the dark in just a minute. I can watch the sunset over Vienna here in the background. Okay, so after we are done with our data exploration, and I usually do this data exploration step for about 10% of the data. That's also always for me the first step that I do when someone gives me data and says, hey, can you analyze this? Give me sometime I need to do some data exploration. And it's often a step that's overlooked because people just want to start coding right away, but often it's a good idea to familiarize yourselves with the data and the topic up front. Now we are done with data exploration and we want to get serious. We want to start coding. If you still not sure what coding is, you will see and learn it now. In MAXQDA, these text labels that we already saw in our code system are called codes, and they are used to structure the material. In MAXQDA, coding is really the comparatively simple process of assigning a code, a label to your data. That's called coding in MAXQDA. In like grounded theory, it's much more complicated, but on the software side, that's what we are talking about. This allows you to analyze the structure of your data. So already the code system that comes out of your research can be a very important finding. Just if you would have known it before, then maybe you would have done the research differently, but already your code system in itself is a very important outcome of many research projects. And it allows you to quantitatively analyze it to see, what's frequent, what's rare, what's common, what's not so common opinion. And you can use it to retrieve and find data easily. We will now, we will to create all of these codes, but we will at least create a few codes like childcare or typical workday. And what we are doing here first is that we already have an idea what we are looking for. We create this code and try to assign it to the data. That's called deductive or concept-driven coding. We will use it to code our interview a little bit, and then we will create subcodes for these codes that we will find in our data. I will just show you this very technically because we don't have time to actually read everything in detail because we got just about half an hour left, and I still have a lot to show you. But we will see how that works out. So first, we want to create a new code. Let's assume you have done this interview because you're interested in what is the work-life balance of people, how do they manage to handle work and their private life, and maybe you are interested particularly how they distribute childcare and how childcare impacts their work-life balance. So we might create a new code, and we can do it here under codes. And right next to codes, if we hover over it, we see the little plus. This allows us to create a new code out of thin air, out of our imagination. And here under code, I just need to give it a name. It needs to be at least 1 character, cannot be less. And it's now, I think, up to 127. They increased the limit, so it can be about a sentence, but usually a couple of words are enough. Let's say childcare could be a name, or taking care of children. Maybe that's more in the spirit of grounded theory style of code. So we can give a color to this code. Let's pick this one, and we can, if we want to, already write a code memo like this little yellow thing, because we already want to describe what we will use this code for. We don't do it now, but we just hit OK. Taking care of children, we will want to see how that is organized, how they organize childcare responsibilities. So next, we can create another code. Maybe this is about education. Maybe an education, there you see education. Does it mean the education of children? Or let's maybe call it educating oneself. Educating oneself. Let's give it another color. Maybe this one here. And here we could say, maybe we want to code with this statements about the statements where the interviewed talk about their own educational aspirations. Maybe something just that we know what we want. We want where the interviewers talk about their own education, not about anyone else, not about if it's important in general, about what does it mean for them, what's the plan with their own education. You see here we have here 0, 0 because we have created these codes concept driven. We say like, hey, yeah, we want to find this in the interviews, and maybe we know that we will find something because, well, we have created these interviews. So here we see something about the everyday life of this person, and then, okay, maybe let's say, let's just pretend for now, here they talk about taking care of children. So we highlight this and drag and drop the code on the highlighted data. And now you see here, it now says taking care of children. I can continue reading, maybe here, and then say, I want to use the code educating oneself on that. You have in MAXQDA both options. You can drag the text on the code or the code on the text. Both works, whatever you feel more comfortable with. That's the process of coding. You create codes and assign them to the data. But maybe we can also happen to find codes in our data. That would be the other perspective that I say here. Let's see what it says. Speaking about it, how many domestic responsibilities do you have? Well, that's an interesting question. So I do most of the shopping, that's for sure. And I like to do a lot of cooking. She's very busy in the lab, so she comes home quite late. We could then say, okay, maybe let's start with a code that's called household chores, or how's it called here? Domestic responsibilities. So I create this code because I found it in the data. Could be like data-driven code. And then we could say here, it's about shopping. What I can do, I don't have to create the code here on the top level. I can also create it here on the level of domestic responsibilities. So I say here, for example, shopping. Create it, and then I assign this code here. And then I like to do cooking. Maybe we code this as cooking, just to give you an idea what's the basic logic here. Oh yeah, now I did a little bit differently. There are many ways how you can code in MAXQDA. You can also like right click on a statement and then say, I want to create a new code right away. I call it here cooking. And then I can, in this case, drag and drop it on domestic responsibilities. So I see now my main code here is domestic responsibilities. And so far I have found cooking and shopping. Whatever I find else, I can add it to this here. And you see here, I can collapse this, I can expand this, I can add several layers like cooking. I could say likes it and doesn't like it, for example. Just to give you an idea how that could look. So we could say maybe split people up who like cooking and who don't like cooking. So that's how you do the core coding process. You can create your codes here with the plus and assign them to the data, or you find something in your data, and then you just right click and hit code with a new code. I want to assign the new code to that. For example, here, what did we have? I would be happier if my girlfriend and I could spend more time together. Desire for more free time could be the name that I give to this one here. That's the process. There are a couple of important methodological questions related to this. I'm not going to go deeply into them, but you need to consider, do I want to only code like the word cooking here? Or do I want to code the entire sentence? That depends on what you want to have in the end, and what you want to do in the end. Like I just highlight cooking to show you an example in a second. So if you want to, in the end, have just a list of words, shopping, cooking, whatever, then a single word can be enough. If you like, just say, hey, I want to see about what institutions they speak, about what stakeholders they speak. I just code the single word just because I want to have a list in the end. But then I will not be able to read into, I like to do a lot of the cooking. This person likes cooking. If we just code the word, we might lose that little detail later on. Okay, I will show you two more steps in the process. So this was, we had data exploration and we had the coding process. Oh yeah, one more thing before we move on. I think it's important to mention that is that you can, of course, use these codes non-exclusively. So I can say, here I have the desire for more free time, and then I still code this with, I don't know, profession, where I want to say what profession does this person have. So this entire segment here is desire for more free time, and that's what job or what profession the partner in this case has. So this can be interesting. It can be interesting to analyze what people talk about in what context. So you can analyze code co-occurrence here, but it can also be a hindrance if you want to like count things. You risk double counting them. These are things, co-occurrence of codes, or how much do I want to code? These are things that you will commonly find yourself thinking about later in your research. That was coding. The third step is a pretty short step, but I deliberately built it that way that the first step takes a little bit longer and then it like gets shorter. And I just want to show it to you so that you know it exists, because too many people are out there right now working with MAXQDA, not knowing what a document variable is. And I want that no one leaves my webinar without knowing what a document variable is. So what we want to do here is we want to integrate metadata, like mostly quantitative data about our, as the name suggests, documents. For example, we want to keep track of how old are our participants, what jobs do they have, when was this interview recorded, how old are they, what gender do they have. And this information we can write in our document memo, sure, but we can also put it into document variables. And here in the area of document variables, MAXQDA operates basically like a statistics software, like SPSS or anything of that kind. I will just show you briefly where you find this and explain you the use of it, just that you know, hey, do I want to use that or not? Yeah, I see a couple of questions, but we come back to them later. I think they're interesting questions for the conclusion. So variables here. We have here two important windows, the list of document variables and the data editor. Let's go to the data editor. And there we see that we already have document variables. Surprise, surprise. We have here one document. This is Matteo. And we see here who created it, when, how many segments are in there, and how many memos are in there. So this gives an overview, like how extensively have I worked on it. Also, this modified can help us to find out which was the last document we worked on. But we want to basically add columns to this. For this, we can go to the list of document variables and then add new variables. This operates very similar to like SPSS or any software of that type. So we see here what variables we already have. For example, the date created by created about what date and time. And now I will just add, by clicking at this green plus symbol here, I will just enter, for example, age, and say I want to have it to age to be a number. And then I enter, for example, gender. I just use that as text. I go back to my data editor. I just created two new variables. You can also import them if you already have this information ready. You can also import it into your project here, import data. Now we see we have two new columns, and we can just fill this up with data by just entering it. I can just select 24, 21, 67. Maybe this person is 15. And this one here is 54, and this one here is 28. So we can fill out the data for each of our participants here. You can also hide the thing if you don't need it. And then I can add the age. Matteo is male, David is male, Tatiana is female, Amadi is male, Kasumi, I guess female, Arne is female. So, and you see, what is this good for? First of all, you can get some very quick statistics. If you like to, like here with gender, I can right click and say, give me the frequency, the distribution of that. We see then here we have 3 men and 3 women. We can get this amazing graph. But it's helpful for like showing our population, like who did we talk to? If we have like 30 interviews, it's interesting to see the distribution of certain characteristics. But what this is particularly useful for is that we can use it in the analysis. We can say, show me the domestic responsibilities of men on one page and of women on another page or in another column. So we can use this to retrieve data. I want to see, what do men say about domestic responsibilities? What do women say? In this case, I would need to do this here in mixed methods, but that already goes a little bit into our next step, into analyzing data. I will show it to you in a second, but you can already imagine how that's helpful to filter your data. You say, I'm looking at a statement for educating oneself for 50-year-old Black men from this region. Because I want to compare how Black people or white people regard education, or how young or old people or people from this country and that country, I want to see and compare that and retrieve data based on that. And if you just write this information in a memo, you still have it at your disposal, but you cannot use it to actively retrieve something. So that's integrating variables. Then we come to the 4th step, and then we still have a little bit of time for your questions. I already see a couple of them here, and I will answer. I can already promise that I will answer all your questions. You're not so many people that I cannot do it. And if I take 5 minutes longer answering them, that's totally fine for me. So just be a little bit patient. I'll finish this thought and this little presentation before coming to them. So what do you want to do with MAXQDA? Common goals are these. You might want to summarize cases. You might have an interview, or a specific person or a specific document, and you would just want to summarize and closely describe what did this person say, or what is this document about. Might be a good start for a bachelor thesis where you just describe in detail a certain case. You can also summarize topics like codes. You say, hey, I just want to see across my data, what do people say about domestic responsibilities? That's it. I'm not interested in more. Would be very simple analytical goals. Commonly, we find a bit more complex goals, those being you want to compare groups of documents. For example, people from one and another place, this kind of people and that kind of people, like employers and their boss or whatever, and we see how are they different in how they perceive the company. Especially interesting is an analysis along the date. So you have a longitudinal analysis, you ask people about something, you do interviews, then there is an intervention, and if something happens, that there's an intervention, or they go into work, gather some experience, or something happens, and then after they have their children, and sometime later you interview them a second time. And then you have like interview 1, so then have an event between, and interview 2. And you want to compare a before and after, like what do people say before and after they have children about something. And the 4th one that's not here, I need to update that, is that you might be interested in building a theory or building a model. That's especially common in grounded theory, but it's the most complex of the ones we consider here. So for this goal, analysis is of course key. So how do you analyze documents? And I just want to show you the retrieved segment windows and explain to you how activating things works. And then we will, then I will show you, one example, 2 examples of the analysis features, of a bit more advanced analysis features, and then we will have time for your questions. I already warned you, it's going to be an intense session, but I hope you're still with us. And you get an overview of what does it mean to work with MAXQDA in the various stages of your project. So a key thing in MAXQDA is activating documents in the retrieval. Activating means I click here on this little circle next to a document or code, and then here it becomes blue and filled up. Right now I activated Matteo, or I activated Tatiana. Here, for example, activate Matteo. Activating means I pick this for my analysis, for my retrieval, for my visualization, for my table. So I want to build a visualization maybe based on only Matteo. A very basic retrieval function is here the retrieved segments feature. You see down here retrieved segments. That's the fourth window that is hidden at the beginning. We can click here and it comes up. And it tells me here I need to activate documents and codes. So I want to see what Matteo said about cooking. Here we see just the word cooking. Disappointing, right? Well, I just coded cooking. Let's expand this and also go for shopping and say, yeah, what did he say about desire for more free time? Now we see this comes up. So we see these three statements. Well, that's an interesting question. So I do most of the shopping. Then we have cooking, because that's what we coded, right? We just coded the single word. We still remember he likes cooking, probably doesn't like doing shopping so much. And then we see here what's his argument about wanting to spend more time with his girlfriend. And so this shows you already why thinking about how much your code is important. Is this one word enough for you? Do you need this one sentence, or do you need the entire statement here? And activating things helps us to just pick what do I want to retrieve. I will show you now a more sophisticated example. We will not go into the details of what it is all about, but I want to show you, let me see, where do I have my project? Yeah, let's go to this example project here. And I will show you an example of comparing groups. Then yeah, let's start with comparing groups, because that's one of the most essential tools. We'll see if we have a little bit of time for one of the visual tools too. So comparing cases and groups, I said, is already a very common analytical goal. So we can click here and hit select qualitative or quantitative comparing groups. I will go for quantitative. And right now I will pick down here. I have split my documents into sets. It's not important what it means right now, but we have here a group with respondents without children and respondents with children. And now I could drag every single code I want over here, or I can just say, hey, I'm interested in these codes. I activate them, work-life balance. And here I can pick that I want to insert my activated code. So activating things is just selecting them, preparing them for the analysis. And then let's hit OK. And we will get this simple quantitative comparison. And we see that, surprise, surprise, people talk more about their family if they have children, apparently. Well, that's not so surprising, right? But we see also that the people without children here talk a little bit more about education. We have more statements about that topic. So that's just a fake example, but it's just an example of how you can use comparing groups. And the good thing here is that if you have used document variables, you can use all kinds of these analyses. I will show you the one more thing that I promised, the crosstab feature. So that means I can define my columns based on variables. So I can say here, I want to compare, what do we want to compare? Maybe people of two different age groups. People who are, let's say, younger than 31, and people who are older than 31. We then leave out the people. Now let's do older or equal. And I want to see this about their work situation. So I activate here work situation and pick here. I want to see it only for that group. Let's see if there's a difference. I don't know. We'll see. And now we have these two groups and we compare them. We see we split them sort of evenly, 4 to 6 people. Let's see. We can also look at percentages here if that's what we like. And then we can analyze and see the older people here talk less about their career, well, and less about flexibility. They talk more about home office and their salary. Okay. I mean, it's not going to be significant, but it's just to give you an idea of what this is all about. And lastly, we can, of course, use various visualization tools. So, for example, here with Matteo, let's have a look at Matteo. Just to give you one glimpse, we can look here at the code line to see what topics Matteo talked about. Let's have a look. And then we see, let's wait a second. Let's, let's collapse it like that. So we see here in the beginning, he talked about something else. And then here, he talked about the topics of work-life balance and the work situation. Then he continued about the work situation and he went back to work-life balance. So this is one document and it's like a partitur, like musical notes where you see where and when in this document is what topic coming up. Just as one example. We see here he starts with his typical work day, then he talks about his family, and at the same time about free time and self-care. Then he continues to talk about work-life separation. Just one of a large amount of options. So I see that with a couple of questions, so I will quickly jump to my conclusion. So what do you want to use MAXQDA for? It's, in summary, for the analysis of qualitative data. That means text, image, audio, and video. You're not limited to one type. It supports you in a manual structure of coding your data, of structuring your data. And it's especially helpful because it brings together all types of data, your documents, your memos, and your codes in one place. And come back to the visual tools webinar for that. We can create astonishing visualizations that also help us to find new insights about our data. And we can also build tables and quantify our data. A little bit help for self-help. The most important one, the MAXQDA manual, is really good. It's very good documentation. Just enter MAXQDA manual in Google. It's good documentation with lots of screenshots. You can also find help on YouTube and find a lot of books, especially by MAXQDA Press, that you can download for free online that give you examples of like a guide or examples of other research projects. A little bit of advertisement. End of February, early March, the MAXQDA user conference is being held in Berlin again. I will be there. It's for me like my academic highlight of the year. Lots of people, nice people coming to Berlin, talking about MAXQDA, learning more about MAXQDA, exchanging ideas. It's really a great community. I can highly recommend to sign up for this conference. And I'm so happy that finally it's happening in person again. Meet me there. If you like, I will have a couple of sessions on AI features. You can also reach out to me. That's me. You can just Google Andreas and MAXQDA. You probably find me. There are not so many people with that name. Yeah, you can send me an email. You can reach out to me, or you can also check out some of my YouTube videos. But I don't want to waste your time with advertisements. I will now go straight to the questions. So we exactly land at 5 o'clock right now. So if you have questions, just stick around. I will answer them as the best I can. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off. I know, I don't know what time is it at your place, but everyone is really busy these days. So yeah, thank you for your attention. And I will now go into the questions. You can also share your questions now. I will first look at the previous questions so that the people who were so nice and asked them early, you can head off. And when you say, I had all my questions answered, feel free to, well, stick around or drop off. I will have a look at your questions now.